Hello and welcome to this vlog for the 44th auction. Big Peatrie back here again with Big Peatrie's picks for what is another record setter for us. Last month we gave you 2,600 lots to choose from. And we thought, you know what? That's not enough for you guys. You guys deserve more choice than that. So we scoured, we went looking, and together we brought together an auction of over 3,200 lots. There's an awful lot of whiskey in this auction. There's very few bottles behind me comparatively. This is just to give you a flavour, a smidgen, an amuse-bouche of what we have available to you. But what we've got is some great whiskey and some stellar bottles. I can't even come close to going through how much is in this auction. Many minis, again, many minis. We've got an incredible selection of whiskey. So please, when you log in, take your time, have a look around. Relax with a dram in your hand while you scan the fabulous vista of whiskies that we have available for you. Before I get too carried away with myself, let's start talking about the whiskies and we'll get you through this as quickly as possible. First up, we have one of my favourite distilleries. It's Highland Park. And this is 1958 Highland Park, bottled at 40 years old and at 44%. This is, for me, one of the most consistently brilliant whiskies out there, one of the best distilleries. And this lovely bottle is really elegant and simple. It doesn't shout about what it is, it just gets on with being brilliant. Comes with a crystal decanter and a wooden box and is a really lovely whiskey. Next up, it wouldn't be a Big Peatrie's picks without Macallan, and a 1946 Macallan at that. A 1946 52-year-old Macallan at that. One of these lovely, primarily I would imagine for the investor, but what a whiskey to try on your 52nd birthday, or if you were born in 1946. Treat yourself, it's Christmas. Crack open a real drop of liquid history. Next up we have two lots. I'm doing them together because they're both from the same distillery and both from the same independent bottler, but there's a nice wee difference about them. First up, the distillery is Lochside. Second up, the bottler is Cadenhead. Now look at the lovely colour on that, lovely dark sherry hogshead whiskey. Lochside, one of these distilleries that's no longer producing. Started out as a brewery, unfortunately stopped production as a distillery in 1992. But a real chance to try something. They're quite different, Lochside. A wee bit, the spirit was a wee bit more complex than others, some say. What we've got here is a sherry hogshead. Lovely colour, great whiskey to try. Second up, another 23-year-old, again from Lochside, but this one was aged in a port hogshead. So it's going to be very different in the style of profiles. Portugal and Spain playing each other. Imagine the best Portuguese side with Figo and with Ronaldo playing against, you've got Spain with all those wonderful players whose names I can't remember right now. This would be a great tasting. Have those two bottles together, side by side, win them in the auction, have a great tasting, invite me along, and I'm sure we'd have a very pleasant evening. Next up, again, it wouldn't be a vlog without something from Gordon MacPhail and their endless conveyor belt of wonderful, rare old whiskies. This one is from Strathisla, one of the oldest distilleries in the Highlands. Started out being called Milltown, then changed to Milton, and then lost its paradise and became Strathisla. This was distilled in 1963 and is 48 years old from a first fill sherry butt. So again, a cracking colour and a lovely label of this beautiful sort of the Book of Kells design. It's a lovely looking bottle of whiskey, and a real good win for anyone who gets it. We like old whiskey, but we also like new things here at Scotch Whisky Auctions. We're not afraid of new, young, exciting spirits. So what we've got here, images of Ayrshire. It's got a nice wee picture of the Dalrymple Bridge on it. It's one of only 328 bottles released. It's bottled at a frankly eye-watering 68.3%. Now, this doesn't say what it is, but a little bit of detective work, a little bit of searching on the internet, a little bit of reading the works of Sir Valentine, and there's a very good chance that this is the first bottling from Ailsa Bay. A really good chance to try what has been described as a real find, a real star, a new star for the Scotch whisky firmament. So have a look out for this one. This is an absolutely stellar, I love the design of the bottle, it's a great bottle of whisky. What we've got next is frankly my favourite lot in the auction. I got very excited when this one came in. It is the Whisky Distilleries of the United Kingdom by A Barnard. This one here was released in 1887 when it was first released. This is the first edition of possibly the Whisky Bible, the most important book ever written on whisky. Mr. Barnard toured around Great Britain writing about distilleries, and what's really wonderful about this book is the way that he writes. He does tend to talk an awful lot about his breakfast, it's quite interesting, but his descriptions are wonderful. It's very evocative. If you get the chance ever to read this, I highly, highly recommend it. And this lovely old book, talk about liquid history. This is an absolutely carte blanche piece of whisky history. Very, very important, and yeah, my favourite lot of this auction. Next up, another distillery that's no longer producing, another independent bottler, feeling quite feisty and independent here at Scotch Whisky Auctions at the moment, and this is Milburn. Milburn had a bit of a problem. They couldn't expand, couldn't go beyond their means. They were chapped, so they kind of crumpled a wee bit like a flan in a cupboard. And what we have here, though, is a 1936 Milburn from 1969. A great whisky from a much underrated lost distillery. Lagavulin is not a distillery that's underrated by anybody. An absolute heavyweight from Islay, one of the world's best distilleries, best loved distilleries. The reason we picked this one out is A, it's 20 years old, B, it's an independent bottling at cask strength. You don't get an awful lot of these out there. A real chance to try something very different. They're very, very tight with their controls at Lagavulin. 16, 12, 21. They're not overly keen on throwing out random expressions or for independent bottlers. So this one here, quite a find, in fact. Now, in terms of Islay, in terms of auctions, in terms of Scotch Whisky Auctions, there's none bigger than Port Ellen. There isn't. And this one here is from Rare Malts. Rare Malts was released to let people try distilleries that they never really had a chance to try before. And they were released at fabulous cask strength, 60.9%, some of them even higher than that. But at great ages as well, 20 years old. And the great thing about this Port Ellen is this is bottle number 1. So not only was this amongst the first releases to let you try distilleries that you'd never tried before, this is the first bottle of these releases to let you try that. Absolutely stonking bottle of whisky, and who doesn't want to be number 1? And last, but by no means least, we have the number 1 bottler of Japanese whisky, probably the godfather of independent Japanese whisky at the moment. This is a Kawasaki grain whisky from Ishiro Akuto. Ishiro Akuto is the owner of Chichibu Distillery, which is my favourite distillery in the world to say, because it's almost impossible to say without spelling. Chichibu! Great whisky from Chichibu as well. This is a grain whisky, Asian sherry butts, and a real chance to try. We know how collectible Japanese whisky is at the moment. The Kurosawas for us are doing really well. Remember from the last auction we had those lovely ones with the lovely design, and we've got 3 of them in this auction. But this one is Kawasaki from Ishiro's Choice 1976. A cracking dram. So, ladies and gentlemen, get in, have a look around. We've got 3,200 lots. We've got 35-year-old Taliskers. We've got 35-year-old Royal Brackos, one of only 100 bottles ever released. We've got incredible whisky. We've got Ardbeg with mini wheelbarrows. We've got Ardbeg Golden Ball. We've got all sorts of exciting and wonderful things in this auction. So, ladies and gentlemen, get in, have a look around, and as always, Scotch Whisky Auctions, don't lose your bottle.